3 Taylor Swift concerts in Australia have been cancelled due to suspected Islamic terror plots. Authorities made 2 arrests, with one suspect being linked to ISIS. According to officials, a teenager accused of plotting the attack had carried out concrete preparatory actions. But don't worry, police say it won't have any impact on her return next week to the UK when she plays Wembley Stadium for her 5 final shows in Europe later this month. Well, joining us now to discuss this is the Director of Policy at the counter-extremism group, Tom Wilson. So, Tom, they've actually cancelled concerts. So how much can you tell us about what they found out about what was being planned at these events?
Well, what they seem to have discovered as part of the raids on the individuals who were planning these attacks is that, much like the kind of attacks that we saw a few years ago, they were fairly rudimentary in that the individuals planned to use vehicles and knives and explosives potentially made from sort of chemicals that are fairly easily available. And that also they found material linking those individuals to Islamic State and Al-Qaeda, which highlights the fact that, although there's no evidence yet to suggest that these individuals were being directed, that you don't have to have a sophisticated organization for these attacks to be planned. You simply need individuals who are inspired, who can access this material, and who will attempt to carry out attacks in the name of an organization, even if they aren't formally part of it.
Just plugging in.
Do we know if these people were known to the counter-terrorism police or the groups? Do we know if they actually knew of them before any of this?
It's not clear how far in advance they became aware of the individuals, but they did highlight the fact that foreign intelligence was important and useful to foiling this plot. And we know that one of the individuals actually uploaded a video of himself taking an oath of allegiance to Islamic State online. So that may have been quite significant in discovering that this plot was being planned. And of course, Vienna back in 2020 did suffer a terror attack inspired by an individual inspired by Islamic State. So the authorities there are aware that there is an ongoing problem of individuals who will seek to act in the name of Islamic State, and that potentially there are networks in that part of Europe that are loyal to the organization, even if it doesn't have the sort of territory that it had some years ago in Iraq and Syria, from which was a base of operations. Now, much like Al-Qaeda, Islamic State is disparate. It operates internationally, and it doesn't need to control territory to direct attacks in Western countries.
So how confident are they then about the concerts in the UK, I mean, in Europe? Sounds like they're saying, oh, don't worry, it's fine, but nothing to see here. But a bit disturbing that some of the concerts have actually been cancelled.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think it is the case that whenever large events take place, there's always going to be the possibility that individuals may seek to target them. And obviously, of course, Britain, with the Ariana Grande concert, has suffered that kind of attack before. The fact that the event in Vienna was cancelled was based on concrete intelligence. And for the events in London to be going ahead, it would suggest that, obviously there is no comparable intelligence. I think the greatest concern here is the fact that when these plots are uncovered, or when attacks do happen, is that other individuals may seek to imitate them. But I would imagine that it will be the case that because of what's happened in this instance, that the authorities here will be taking even further precautions on what they would usually do at a mass event like this. But we are aware that all major public events potentially can be subject to being targeted by extremists. Of course, France suffered the Bataclan attack. In Israel after October the 7th, or in October the 7th, the music festival was targeted. So this is something that authorities always now plan for and are aware of when mass events like this are being organised.
Now, of course, social media companies, do they have a role to play in this, and are they playing a positive role in helping to counter terrorism?
Mainstream social media companies absolutely are, and I think there's very little terrorist content that still appears on most mainstream social media. Obviously, there are more informal and newer and fringe sites that are being established. It is the case that beyond terrorism, you have other types of rhetoric that legitimize violence. So, for instance, you won't see, for the most part, Islamic State or Al-Qaeda content being freely available on your standard social media websites. But what you will see is individuals who legitimize and who validate and endorse the use of violence and Islamist narratives. And I think there is more to be done to crack down on that. And particularly, of course, during the conflict in Gaza, we have seen individuals be able to use social media to legitimize the idea of organizations like Hamas and Hezbollah carrying out attacks. And that's where I think there is a role for social media companies to intervene on those sorts of narratives, even if the explicit content like terrorist training manuals are not being shared on their platforms.
All right, Tom, thank you very much. We'll leave it there. That's Tom Wilson. He's the Director of Policy at the Counter-Extremism Group.